This is a short talk about DisputeFinder. DisputeFinder is a project that I've been working on with Beth Troszkowski, Dan Byler, John Mark Agosta, Tad Hirsch and Ty Rattenbury. The basic problem that we're trying to deal with is that, as I'm sure you're all aware, not everything you read on the web is entirely true, balanced and objective. I've got a few examples on this slide. For example, Google seems to have decided that I'm a weakling. So whenever I do a Google search, I seem to get this advert here saying that I got ripped in 4 weeks. And I probably shouldn't believe that as being true, balanced and objective. Other examples, there have been misleading information about the rate of bankruptcy tied to medical bills, lots of stuff about global warming, misleading claims, not necessarily false but misleading, about Obama's speeches, obviously death panel stuff, and a load of stuff about vaccines and autism. So one of the things that's particularly important here is the fact that the web is perhaps not entirely unbiased and objective is increasingly mattering because people are increasingly turning to the web as their primary source of information about the world. So here I've got some stats by Pew Research who are showing that increasingly the internet is where people get their news. And one thing we're realizing is that the web is a very different model in many ways to the old model of news and information we had in the past. In the old model, you had a fairly small number of fairly well-known sources like TV and radio and newspaper and book publishers. And these sources had some form of gating function. And even if you didn't necessarily trust these guys, there were a small enough number of sources that you thought you knew where they were coming from, what their biases were, etc. In the new model, it's quite different. You've got a truly huge number of largely unknown sources. And some of these sources may be as reliable or more reliable than the old sources you dealt with in the past. But often you don't really know what information you can trust, who is disagreeing with what you're reading, and you don't really have a feeling of the landscape around the issues you're reading, unless you spend a lot of time trying to read from a variety of different sources. So what we're trying to do with the DisputeFinder project is try and use technology to try and address some of these problems. So the goal of this project is to inform users when information that they encounter in their lives is disputed by a source that they might trust. So one way that we manifest this is we've built a web browser extension, currently just for Firefox, which reads the text of every web page that you read and tries to let you know if something you read on a web page is disputed by another source. I'll give a quick demo of that. So if I go to a page in Firefox, you'll see that it has highlighted sentences which it believes are making a claim that somebody else disagrees with. And if I now click on this little icon here, it will now show me what article it has found elsewhere that seems to be putting forward a different point of view. So this is a fairly passive thing for a user to do. They just install this extension into their web browser, browse the web as they would do normally, and then it then tells them when other people are disagreeing with what they're reading, so they know if there's other things they should read to get a more rounded point of view. So now I'm going to go back to PowerPoint. So another way that we've been trying to solve the same goal is we've got a search engine front end. So the model here is that you can search for things on the web as you would normally with things like Google, except that now when you do a search, it will tell you if a page that comes up in the search results is making a disputed claim. I'll give a demo of that as well. So here's the DisputeFinder search interface, and I might now search for like Obama is a Muslim, and I search the web. I now get back search results as normal. In fact, these are Yahoo search results coming through Yahoo Boss. And if I now click on one of these things here, it says here this one contains 9 likely disputes. If I click here, I'll see things like Obama was born in Hawaii is being disputed by this site here. Obama is a Muslim is being asserted by this site here. If I look at another one, this YouTube video, it says this thing here is saying Barack Obama is a Muslim. This guy here, Muslim Matters, is countering that claim. Another quick example. Let's search for the well-known hoax: the moon is made of cheese. Highly disputed. So I go here again. This site here is saying the moon is made of cheese. This other site is saying the moon is not made of cheese. They're disagreeing. So normally when you search the web, the information you get is biased by what website is best able to make its information appear towards the top of the rankings, which isn't necessarily an entirely accurate reflection of who is the most objective and unbiased. So we're trying to inject some degree of broad landscape into what other people think into the search results. So some of you may be wondering, actually I'll talk about a few other things first. So other things we're trying to do going forward is we have a fairly early prototype of a voice interface, and what this does is, imagine you've got a device in your pocket that listens to all your conversations, that listens to everything that anybody else says to you, and then if someone says something which is disputed, it buzzes in your pocket to let you know. So we've got a reasonably early prototype of this, which kind of works as long as things are said very, very clearly in a quiet room. But the basic principle is, we want a lot of the information you get in your life isn't the web, it's conversation. So let's try and let people know if there's disputes there as well. Other thing which we want to do in the future is TV. We've had a lot of thoughts about this, haven't really started building it yet, we want to do this. A lot of information which disputes like TV, particularly like talk shows, particularly political adverts. We really want to have a system where if you watch a really misleading political advert, the TV can somehow alert you that what you saw was disputed, or maybe an advert you saw in the past is now known to be disputed by a source you trust. And there are lots of other places we think the same technology could be applied going forwards as well. For example, you have disputes in your mail, disputes in the books you read, disputes in the news you read, disputes on the stuff that appears in your feed reader tool. And we think there's a huge variety of interesting tools one could build that look at a different source of information and try and alert you to disputes in that information. So you may be wondering how we know whether something you're reading is disputed. There's a number of techniques we use. So we build a corpus of disputed claims, where a disputed claim is a sentence that someone thinks is disputed with some context of text around it where it's being disputed on the web. And we build that in 3 different ways. So we mine these phrases off the web, I'll describe that in a moment. We use crowdsourcing with users manually entering stuff, or we use curated data sets like PolitiFact and Snopes. So to mine these claims off the web, what we do is we search for phrases like falsely claimed that. So here we see some text saying Glenn Beck falsely claimed that the moon is made of cheese. So if we see that on a web page, we'll enter the claim the moon is made of cheese into our corpus, accompanied by this text around it, which will help us know if another page is making the same claim. If we then see another page somewhere on the web, or some other information you're encountering, which seems to make a very similar statement, in this case again it's the moon is made of cheese, it could be something slightly different to paraphrase, and again the context around it suggests it's about the same topic, we will alert you that someone seems to be disagreeing with what you're reading. And we've got a very large number of these patterns we look for, like the false claim that, it is not true that, the misconception that, the delusion that, into believing that, the myth that, misleadingly claimed that. But I should pay attention particularly to this last one, misleadingly claimed that. So often a claim can be disputed while being true, because although people don't disagree that it's true, it's misleading, because if you read that particular claim, it would lead you to believe something else that wasn't true. For example, misleadingly claim that unemployment is lower than the 70s, it might be that that's because the unemployment figures were calculated in different ways and then, or the market was different. So the other approach we use is crowdsourcing. So here what happens is users can manually enter claims that they personally disagree with. Like, I dispute the claim that global warming is good for plants. Global warming is a hoax, can be reworded as this other thing. This particular page is text supporting or opposing this claim. And then I can also train a classifier that will help the system recognize whether a particular disputed claim is being made by another page. There's a few other issues that are important for making something like this work well. For example, how do you decide what it really means to be disputed and what I should tell someone is disputed? What should I consider to be a reliable source I should tell somebody else about? Should I let people know if something is disputed by my friends? Is that important? There's a lot of issues that I want to deal with to make this work really, really well. I think there's a lot of extra scope to explore this problem, and I hope that the community as a whole will explore a lot of these issues we think are important. Thank you.